Hello and welcome again to this lesson, HTML SVG graphics. We are going to be discussing what SVG graphics is and how we can uh, code this. So, scalable vector graphics, that's what SVG means. And the SVG element is used to draw graphics on a web page, right? And the SVG element is only a container for these SVG graphics. And they are used to draw circles, boxes, animations, whatever you want, icons you can use SVG to do. So key highlighted, this is a vector based graphics, right? And it's in XML format, right? And it's all used to draw all these cool images, icons, graphics, etc. So SVG is a W3C recommendation, and we're gonna be using the SVG element as the container for these graphics. And the methods, we're gonna have several methods for drawing the paths, boxes, circles, text, and graphic images. We're going to look at a few examples. And for browser support, we're going to have for Mozilla 4.0 and above, for for Mozilla 3.0 and above, sorry. For Chrome, we are going to have 4.0 and above. For uh, Opera 10.1 and above. Safari, we're going to have 3.2 and above. And I'm sure most of our browsers are up to date to support these. Okay, so let's start with an example because that's always the way to go. I'm going to create, let's just create a, first let's put a comment, SVG graphics, and then I'm going to have my, let's do the whole thing, my doc type. Normally comes up, but not this time. So I'm going to type it in full. And then I'm going to put HTML. And I'm going to have my HTML. And then my body. Right. So let us do this. Right. So I'm going to have in my body, we're going to have our elements, which is SVG. Oh, sorry. SVG. Right. And in the SVG element, I'm gonna have a width of 100, a height of 100, right? And then in the SVG, I'm gonna define a circle. So I'm gonna have my circle, sorry. Can just close it like this. Okay. And then I'm gonna have my coordinates CX is equal to 50. What is wrong with me today? I'm gonna have my CY equal to 50. My radius is equal to 40. I'm gonna say my stroke is equal to green. And I'm gonna put a stroke width is equal to, let's say, 4 pixels. And I'm gonna say fill this with a color red. Okay, so if I refresh this, I have my circle, right? And you can see that the SVG, which is the container, is going to be 100 by 100 box, right? But in this SVG, which is the container, I'm going to have the circle, right? And I just defined the circle to have a circle X. So your X is going to be from center to your edge, which is going to be 50 by 50, right? So I'm going to have my 50 by 50 XY, and I'm going to have my stroke, which says that give me a green circle, right? And then I'm going to say the width of the stroke, which is a green circle, should be 4. If I increase this so we can see, let's say I put 14, you can see that it becomes bigger, right? And then I'm saying fill this circle with red, and there you have it. So that is an example of using a circle in our SVG. Okay, so let's have another one, another SVG, and in here I'm gonna have a width, which is the container size, and my typing really has to improve. I'm gonna have a width of 400, a height of 100, right? And in this container, instead of having a circle, I'm gonna now create a rectangle, right? Which is rect, and I'm gonna put a width. Should it have, yes, same width, say 400, same height of 100, and then I'm gonna style this and say fill. Uh, and what color do you want to fill this? I'll just say black, right? And then I can say stroke width. So you can see that I'm using the style attribute. And I say give me a 10. And I'm going to say stroke. I'm going to put in there red again. Okay, so I styled it up. If I refresh this, and maybe I haven't closed something. Okay, create a rectangle. If I refresh this, you can see the rectangle with the size of 400 by 100. Uh, which so the 400 by SVG 400 by 100 is the container, which is the SVG container, and then you have a rectangle inside with the same dimensions, and then you have uh, fill this black, right, and then give me a red. Give me a red. So that is that another example of an SVG for a rectangle, right? We can do a lot of we can have a lot of examples, and maybe I should talk about one more. If you want to have rounded corners, we can create one. So if we wanted another rectangle with rounded corners, uh, we could have that. Maybe I should put a break here, and maybe let me just copy this because because I want to use something similar. Did I just mess it up? Copy the whole of this again this time. Copy right. Okay, so we have this. So we are going to have the rectangle. If I refresh this, is the exact same one, but I want to have rounded rectangle. So I'm going to have a rect with x, right, and y, right, and then what I'm going to have is the rounded x. I put in here, say 20. I'm going to have ry. I'm going to set this to 20, right? So when I refresh this, and that just disappeared, there has to be a reason for this. And there is. I don't have my width and my height. So I'm just going to copy this and put it here. When I refresh this, it's still not showing. Okay, just so we can see what is happening, I went ahead and did a few modifications. Uh, so what I did first was I added a border to the SVG so I can differentiate where the border is, right? So I had my 400 by 180 border right here, and I just put a solid green so I know where that is. And so now my rectangle that I want to do here, I had a width of 150 by 150, right? And so that defines my rectangle. And then I kind of styled it the same way I styled this, okay? And so with this, now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have my rectangle, which is 50 by 20. So start at 50 by 20 and then draw your rectangle, right? If I say start at 150 and I refresh this, it's going to move because I'm going to be starting at 150 by 20, right? So let's start at, say, 100, right? Just to get it closer to the middle. And then the y should be 20 down, right? So we start at 100 by 20 and then draw your circle. And then the thing that gives us the rounded edges is your rx and your ry, right? So if I make this a 40, and you can see it gives you that curve, right? So 20 by 20, and it gives you the curve. So I had to really look at the dimensions. What was causing the issue was the dimensions, and then we fixed it. So now it looks good. So we can do various things, right? For example, if we wanted to add some uh, opacity to this, all we need to do is do opacity and then set it to maybe zero point 0.5, right? Oops, I need to. Then if I refresh this, you see that it becomes more opaque. So yeah, so this is how we use SVG. Most of the time, you just go online and look for the icons or whatever that you want to use, and then just copy the whole SVG and then put it in your HTML, and then just tweak it to your preference, right? So we can do it with logos, with stars, whatever you want to do with dimensions and all of that. So what you can see that there's a lot of similarities between uh, SVG and Canvas that we talked about in the last lesson. So if you haven't watched that lesson, you can go back just one lesson behind and then watch it. So the differences between SVG and Canvas. So SVG is a language for describing 2D graphics in XML. So you can see that whatever we put in there is all XML, right? And then the canvas draws these 2D graphics on the fly with JavaScript. right? So we use JavaScript with Canvas, and then we don't use JavaScript with SVG. So SVG, like I said, is XML based, which means that every element is available within the SVG DOM, right? And you can attach JavaScript handlers for an element, so you can always do that. And in SVG, each drawn shape is remembered as an object, right? So it's seen as an object. And if attributes of an SVG object are changed, the browser can automatically render the shape, right? But with Canvas, we render these ones pixel by pixel, right? And in Canvas, once the graphic is drawn, it is forgotten by the browser. It doesn't remember what it was, right? So if its position should be changed, the entire screen needs to be redrawn, including any objects that might have been covered by the graphics, right? So in comparison, Canvas is resolution dependent. SVG is not resolution dependent, so it's resolution independent, right? Canvas has no support for event handlers, so we never use event handlers for canvases, but we do use event handlers for SVGs, right? And Canvas has poor text rendering capabilities, so it doesn't render text very well, right? SVG is best suited for applications with large rendering areas, right? And you can, with Canvas, you can save the resulting image as a PNG or a JPEG, all those images that you know, right? But with SVG, it has a slow rendering if complex, right? So anything that uses the DOM a lot will be slow, right? And then with Canvas, it's well suited for graphic intensive games, right? But SVGs are not suited for graphic games, intensive games. So you might want to consider both before you use it in your application. So this is all available with W3 Schools. You can reference it if you want. So thank you for watching this, and I think we are done with graphics. Uh, we just wanted to just look at these two graphics elements, Canvas and SVG. So thank you for watching. See you in the next lesson. Bye.